First of all, welcome, aloha. Thank you for coming, and thank you for supporting Russell Hata and his vision for Chef Zone about trying to incorporate more local ingredients into the store and for sustainability. So thank you, Russell. The first thing that we're going to go do is this is a side-by-side tasting of two tomatoes. By the way, these are both the same varieties. They're all both beefsteak tomatoes. This would be the shape of a beefsteak tomato, and this would be the shape of a plum tomato. And you would use these for two different things when you buy them. So let me explain what's happening, okay, when you go left to right. We're talking about acid and sweet, okay? Now, for those of you who go out to have wine with dinner, this is very, very true, so pay attention now, okay, if you like wine. If you taste something sour, the more acid than this one's going to appear sweeter. Up here. Okay, no magic. Now, if this one's sweeter than this one's going to taste more acidic. That's why I suggested you go here, clear, then you go here. Okay, left, right, and right, left. These 5 things that come up here. This is how I cook. So if you notice, there are no recipes. You have to take notes, okay? I cook by way of sodium, acid, sweet, heat, and bitter. So if something is too sweet, I'm going to grab something from the acid box to balance them out. If something is too sweet and I throw something acidic, it's sweet sour. Okay? If something's too sweet and I throw some heat at it, it's hot sweet. Okay? The hot will cancel the sweet. So as I'm tasting, that's what's going in my head. Because these guys change every single time you buy them. Even if you buy them from the same farmer. One might be like very ripe and one might be like, oh, what happened? So we're going to make a chilled tomato soup. What happens if your tomatoes are not as ripe? And you already have friends coming over. What are you going to do? What you can do is you can cut them in half and sprinkle a little bit of salt and bake them in the oven. And what you're going to see, the salt is going to take moisture out and the oven heat is going to start evaporating the water. And when the water evaporates, the flavors get more condensed. Now, these are what I call blister tomatoes. If you look at these tomatoes, they look kind of like egg-shaped. These are baby Romas. Okay, and Roma tomatoes are good for making sauce. They don't have as much water. They're very meaty. Okay, so this will simply just put on a pan, a little olive oil, a little salt, throw it in the oven, and then wait till it starts to crack. If you think about a steak and blistered tomatoes, this is very juicy. And we're talking about how to get flavors out of tomatoes to accompany whatever you're going to eat. Okay. Now that's not the only thing you're going to put on the plate, but it's something that gives flavor. Same tomato, but I put a little bit more olive oil. In fact, I put a little avocado oil too. I've been switching to avocado oil. Okay, I put some sliced garlic, some shallots in there, bay leaf, some black peppercorns, and a little bit red chili flakes. So now they're bathing in oil. I stuck them in the oven until they popped and blistered again. Okay, the fancy French term be confit. Tomato confit in olive oil and garlic. Okay, try these. Now, we're not talking about finished dishes now. We're talking about something, a component, to add to something that adds flavor now, okay, that you can put on your plate. It's going to add another dimension to your dinner. Okay, cucina povera, okay? This is food that comes from poor times. That's what I consider the soul food. You have to make something taste good. I would say make something out of nothing, okay? What happens when your bread gets stale? What is a panzanella? A tomato panzanella. Technically, you got some bread and then you make it more, you take the bread, you take the juices that come off, you put a little olive oil, maybe a splash of vinegar if you like, and you have something. How many of you have heard of a dish called ribollita, Tuscany? So that's I had that in Tuscany, in Florence. Okay, it could be as easy as tomato, water, little garlic, maybe basil, and thicken with bread. So we're talking about peasant food. We're talking about, you know, making something out of nothing. Okay, how many of you left side? Tomato, left side. How many on the right side? The left side was the generic supermarket tomato, imported from the mainland. The right side was a local vine-ripened tomato. This is pretty easy now. You need a pretty good blender. These are tomatoes that have been wedged. And that's all, okay? These are the local Kaumara tomatoes. Now, tomatoes are acidic and sweet at the same time. 2 cloves of garlic. Let's do 3, okay? Let's do salt, 2 teaspoons. Okay, I can always add more, I can't take away. That was about 5 small ones. Small ones now, like these are small. Like 5 of those. Okay. Chili pepper water. Whether store-bought or homemade. Okay, you can buy this here. Parks brand. Everybody has their own tolerance for heat. And you put slowly. You can always add more, you can't take away. Now, I know this is a blend of oil that's 70% canola, 30% olive oil. Okay? This here is avocado oil. So, I know approximately how much was that? Quarter cup? Half cup? And they say you're not supposed to, but I take these guys off. And if I need to add some more stuff, I would add it to the whole. So 1 spoon in, 1 spoon in the mouth, okay? We got sweet, we got acid, we got heat going on, we got salt. I've kind of reduced cooking down to the simplest thing. It's how much salt and pepper you put on your food. It's your seasoning. This is the pepper. If you ever came to the restaurant, we had soy sauce and chili pepper water. That was our salt and pepper. Now, this is not only heat, this is acid. Okay? They put vinegar in here. It's like that tomato thing. What happens when I add acid to this tomato thing? What's supposed to happen? It's supposed to make the tomatoes just a little bit sweeter and pop a little bit. Sometimes when a dish is flat, add a sprinkle of vinegar. A few drops. It brings it alive. If you make something the day before and the next day it's kind of mellowed out, perk it up. Put a little acid in it. It doesn't have to be vinegar. It could be a few drops of lemon juice. It could be a splash of this. Okay, we also had a bunch of tomatoes today. And so whenever there were like any juices left over, I saved them all. So it's simply called tomato water. So I'm feeling like the oil is fat. There's a lot of acid in here. Okay? I don't want to add so much oil where you don't taste the tomato. What the oil also does is temper the acid. So it's not as acidic. Now, I don't want to get too complicated, okay? But it's just this juggling act, okay? So anybody notice what just happened to the color? When I added more avocado oil, it got a little bit more orange. That would only happen if the machine was high powered. The mass of tomato is keeping the acid and oil together. That if you left it in the refrigerator overnight, it might separate a little bit. So instead of 100%, okay, I wanted to use a lot of the things that I do don't really go well with extra virgin olive oil. It's too strong. Imagine going to a Japanese restaurant, Chinese restaurant, Korean restaurant, and putting extra virgin olive oil on. You blow all the flavors away. Too strong. So I work with a lot of Asian ingredients, and it doesn't match. So an olive oil blend is okay. I could have used all 100% avocado oil, but then this one's much more expensive. Okay? Because I have choices here. I have grapeseed oil, I have extra virgin olive oil, and I have organic olive oil. And they all taste different. You're welcome to try them later on. Okay? But what's the star of this? It's supposed to be the tomato. So earlier, it was mentioned that I'm going to do this with a goat cheese toast. Okay, so if you've ever been to the restaurant, we used to serve something called soup and sandwich. So it's a simple grilled cheese sandwich with Hilo pig and foie gras. Instead of a hot tomato soup, it's a cold one. Instead of a grilled cheese sandwich, I just put a little bit of Hilo pig in there and the foie gras. You take a baguette, you take 2 slices. Okay? If it's skinny, you cut it on the bias. It gets a bit larger. So, I have here mozzarella cheese. It happens to be already grated. If you have sliced, that's fine. Just cover the bread. Okay. Now then, I take the Hilo pig and I put it like in one simple layer. How many of you know what foie gras is? Okay, this is the duck liver. Okay, so I seared it and I cut it in half. It's about 3 ounces and I cut it in half. So then I'm going to put that in the middle. Then I make the sandwich. Take a little butter. So you would put that on like a pancake griddle or a pan, or Teflon pan probably works the best. You would do the same as if you're making a grilled cheese sandwich. So we're going to do 2 soups, one red, one yellow, in the same glass for you. The point here is, if you have a great canned product, and if it's better than your fresh product, it's okay to use your canned product. I mean, if you're trying to force a fresh tomato to make it taste good, you're not going to be as successful. Sometimes, not only the canned product works, but it's always going to be consistent. Okay? So here's a canned yellow tomato. So I added 3 garlic cloves the last time. 3 garlic cloves here. I have some chili pepper water. Okay? Maybe I add a little bit more than last time. Okay? I know I'm going to add some oil, so I'll start now with a little bit. And I'll put the rest in while it's going. Now, talking about bread, there is a soup, a tomato cold soup, that when you put bread in it, they call it something else. What do you call it? Gazpacho. Maybe you heard of something called salmorejo. This one's sweeter. Tomatoes are different. If the tomatoes are great, the yellow tomatoes tend to be sweeter. Okay? But it's a little thick. I'm going to add a little tomato water. I don't have to. I want to make these two, the viscosity, almost similar. So when they pour it at the same time, it kind of stays separate. I think it needs a little more salt, pepper. You take your glass, and I like to use a clear glass. In the restaurant, we had a martini glass. Red one, yellow one. This glass is not completely round, but I tried to do like a little yin-yang in there. Okay. And then, Grant, where's the basil? Put that in between the red and yellow. And this is what's going to be served to you. Okay? A grilled cheese sandwich on the side. The most important thing was this sandwich has cheese. Okay? Mozzarella cheese. It has Hilo pig. It has foie gras. Okay? And it has butter on the outside of that bread. So I'm hoping that this soup is acidic enough to complement all that fat. That would be the most important thing. To make it more confusing, in the very, very beginning, the original dish, there was a green tomato soup. And I wasn't trying to make a yin-yang. I was just trying to make a mixture of tomatoes. So my hope was not to go like sip, 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 but together, you get tomato. It was about one farmer. Okay, that's what it was. But hey, if you only got one tomato, and that's okay. It's about the sandwich. It's like tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwich. That's what it is. Anybody put carrots in their marinara? Okay, so carrots add flavor, texture, but it adds a sweetness of the carrots. When you put onions, if you caramelize the onions, you're adding sugar and sweetness. So little tricks. Take a look at the brand of product you're using. If you're not happy with this canned product, switch cans. Switch brands. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but you might have better results with a different brand. By the way, when you came and if you ordered the soup and sand, if you notice, the soup and sandwich was in quotes. Okay? That meant that you're getting a soup and sandwich, but nothing's normal about it. So that became an expectation. Not everything had quotes on it, but if it had quotes on it, people would be wondering, okay, what's he doing with that? Okay? And I think that became an expectation over time that I would do something different with something. Okay? You know why this style of cooking had a bad reputation and bad name? It'd be fusion. Fusion had a bad name. It's because when you put C-O-N in front of fusion, you get confusion. Okay? Confusion happened when, number one, when the chef didn't understand the ingredients. Like miso is not just miso. You have so many different kinds. Sweet kind, salty kind, very deep and dark kind. Soy sauce the same. You cannot just take ginger and use it any old way. You put it in marinade, it's going to eat the protein so much because there's an enzyme in the ginger. All these little things you got to know. You got to understand the ingredients. And then you got to also understand how you're going to mix this with this. So that's why I've kind of adopted this. And just work slowly. If you ever went out to dinner and have one of those confusion meals, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? Maybe too sweet. Maybe like 7 colors on the plate. Maybe like the dish is this high. You know? The reason why I said that is this panzanella is not quite the same. These are all small tomatoes. You got yellows, oranges, reds, you got greens. I have an assortment of olives. Now what I did was I salted them first. Okay? For example, this is one that I'm going to demonstrate, and this is the one you're going to eat. Okay? I salted them ahead of time. This was salted like 1 hour ahead before you came at 5 o'clock. The liquid came out. Salt takes moisture, water out. Now, some people like to take a tomato, cut in half, squeeze the seeds and water out. Okay? I don't like to because that's flavor. That's the juice. That's juices. I'll take the liquid. That's going to help me with the olive oil, create its own little dressing, and that's what's going to coat the croutons. These are the tomatoes salted with the juices, olive oil, hand-torn basil. Got a bunch of olives in there that you're going to get to take home. This is my version of stale bread. So I do the croutons last minute. I want them to still have a little bit of texture to them. I don't want them to be all mushy. You could make them all mushy and put them in there early. Okay? Now, I don't want to. So when I'm tasting, what am I tasting for? I think it needs a little salt. And what I'm going to do is add a little bit more cheese. Parm. Okay, a little oil in the pan. Okay, a little oil, and I put the cut bread inside here. Excuse me? This one was the blend. Sometimes when things get too hot, it's the easiest thing to do. Just take it off the fire. Okay? You want it kind of like on medium heat. So, yes, we're sauteing bread.
Do you season the bread at all when you put it in the oven to dry it out?
No, I would do that after. For the same reason that I almost always use unsalted butter, so I can add the salt to it. So the avocado oil. This is minced garlic. And I take a little butter. So I'm kind of like making a garlic butter right in the pan. Okay? And I put the garlic in one spot in the pan, and I put the butter right on top of the garlic. The butter is going to melt right on where the garlic is. Butter is going to cook, then you toss it all together. Okay? It would be at this point that I just add a little salt. If you want to make them, you got bread, oil, butter, garlic. If I wanted to, I would do this. Take a little cheese. And these would be great croutons for salad. These are soft yet because they're hot. Once you take them out, you cool them down to get a little bit more firm. Salted tomatoes and olives. I kind of already did it already. Some minced shallots. Some minced garlic. Some avocado oil. So if you want other types of cheeses, you can use feta cheese. You can use goat cheese. You can take a little bit of feta cheese and freeze it. Okay? And then when you kind of grate it on your salad, looks like snow. This is not just about the 2 tomatoes that come from 2 farms. It's a little bit about vegetables. So that's why I included the daikon tea. And so I just have a couple of surprises for you. Okay? That involve vegetables. So I have some cucumbers here. These are English cucumbers. I peeled them. I took the seed out. They're like cut like that, and they are quarters of a cucumber. So there's a little bit of butter. I put some of that tomato water in here, seasoned with salt. So in classical cooking, if you had a glazed carrot or a glazed cucumber, when it's shining like that, that's the glaze. Okay? But it needs a little bit more cooking. It should be not raw, not mushy, but little texture. Now, I'm also going to make a Kahlua pig Caesar salad for you. That was one time on the menu too. It's going to go in this cheese basket. That's the show plate, and I'm going to put a disc right on top of your salad. I believe in Italy they call this frico. Okay, they make these are just a snack. You would eat this with some champagne or prosecco. Okay, a simple one. This has, very simply, Parmesan cheese and a little bit of panko or breadcrumbs. Okay, the breadcrumbs kind of soak up the fat coming from the cheese, and together the fat and the breadcrumbs make it crispy. This is kind of the current trendy thing that a lot of the chefs are doing. They put this mess of cheese on a griddle, then they put the hamburger on it, or they put their tortilla on it. Then when they take it off, the cheese comes hard, and you get chewy crispy cheese. So now you can use a Teflon pan. That'd probably be best. But the advantage of having a griddle like this or like a little bigger pan like this is you can take a spatula and go behind it versus if you had a pan, you got the lid to deal with, right? Okay, so right now the Parmesan cheese is completely melted. Okay, it's kind of getting happy with the breadcrumbs. Okay, this is almost like a Caesar's dressing. If you want to start with eggs and make the dressing from scratch like that, great. Okay, if you want to cheat, use mayonnaise. All right, so this is mayonnaise, anchovies, garlic, lemon juice, Parmesan cheese. That's all, simple. Okay, we're balancing the salt from the anchovies, the salt from the Parmesan, the acid from the lemon juice. I think celery is a very underutilized vegetable. It has a lot of flavor. And so may pickled celery and tomatoes. So that bowl is pickled celery and tomatoes. Okay, while you're eating that, okay, this is bread. Put into the oven, leftovers, okay, so dry that, okay, so you see it. So this is gonna go into my ribolita. Okay, so now you got the Kaloo pig. It's with the Caesar dressing. Tomatoes are supposed to be the acid that kind of lightens everything up. But if you just want the Kaloo pig and Caesar dressing, eat that by itself, push the tomato to the side. And that's that cheese crisp. So that this cheese crisp, this basket here, was simply, after it was done, put over this upside down. And let it cool. When it cools, it gets crisp. When you're cutting cilantro, don't throw the stems away. This has the most flavor. You guys okay for one more? Okay. Y'all know what Manhattan clam chowder? It's red based, right? Celery. Except I didn't put any potatoes in it. You know what a tortilla soup is? Got the crispy tortillas, maybe an avocado, maybe some lime, right? Okay. And so if you know what ribolita is, it could be as simply as tomato. Now, I put stock in this card too. I call it liquid. The simplest is I use water. I could use chicken stock. I could use canned chicken broth. Okay, fish stock, homemade, or you could use base or canned. It just comes under the card called liquid. So tomato, liquid, bread. Maybe a little cheese. So like the tortilla soup, I'm gonna put some cilantro on top, a wedge of avocado, crispy tortilla chips, a wedge of lime. So I'm almost saying like, what happens when the Manhattan clam chowder meets the ribolita, and then they both meet tortilla soup? That's what you're gonna get, okay? I never did this before, okay? All I knew was, I was gonna work with some tomatoes and try to make you some kind of soup today. And I thought, ribolita, I really enjoyed that. So this is a version of ribolita. Not only did some great things come out of 4 times, it's the least expected time that you figure something out, that maybe you come up with something new. Sometimes you come up with something by accident. A little whoops. Okay, this was low sodium chicken broth, organic from the store, and clam juice. 1 can of clam juice and 1 can of clam with clam meat. This is the quahog. So it's a little bit bigger. Well, today was about tomatoes, 2 farmers, and maybe a little bit more about vegetables. Does anybody have any questions for me? Anyway, thank you, Russell. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Hope you had a good time, and I hope to see you again.